Abdel Bari Atwan. Bari, welcome.
It is a pleasure to be with you, George, as you are very enthusiastic, very fairful, very fair as usual, and very sparkling also. So it is my pleasure to be with you, my brother.
Most kind, most kind. I think we first spoke on a platform together 40 years ago when we were both young men, but we haven't lost our zeal, as people are about to find out from you as you look back on the great crime that was committed 20 years ago. What are your feelings, and how would you summarize the feelings across the Arabs as a whole?
George, what is happening now, about 90%, if not more, of the Iraqi regretting the day, actually, they stand against their government and supported the invasion and destruction of Iraq. Personally, I wasn't surprised that this war actually was to destroy Iraq. You have to remember, and I'm sure you do remember, Iraq was under starving sanction for at least 12 years before the invasion and before actually the destruction of the country. About 1 million people, most of them children, died because of starvation, because of the sanction. And Madeleine Albright, the foreign minister in that time, justified these deaths of children and people, say that the job deserved that and more. So now when you look at the Iraqi situation, when you look at the Iraq people, when you read stuff saying that $880 billion of Iraq money were stolen, actually taken away in foreign banks in Switzerland and other countries. If you look at the situation in Iraq, there is no proper running water, there is no electricity, the people are still starving despite Iraq is exporting about 5 million barrels of oil a day. It is destruction wherever you look at the situation. They told us that, and they told you also, they told both of us, George, and BBC, ITV, Channel 4, that Iraq will be prosperous. Iraq will be envy of by the most of the Arab people. Iraq will be the example and symbol of democracy in the Arab world. I remember, I'll tell you something, maybe one day I was invited by Andrew Neil in his show on the BBC, and he said, well, Mr. Atwan, now your Saddam Hussein is defeated. We are there in Iraq. What we believe Iraq will be, as I said, the most, or as he said, the most prosperous country in 18 months' time. I said to him, and Diana Appott was there, and Michael Portillo was there. I said to him, Andrew, Iraq in 18 years will be starving, and it will be anarchy, and it will be actually very, very backward country, and the stable Iraq will disappear forever. He said no. I said, okay, invite me in 18 months' time, and let us say who is saying the right thing and who is saying the wrong thing. I have been waiting for this interview for 18 years, for 20 years now. He never invited me. This is the lies of the media in this country. They actually deceived people. Iraq is actually, after the invasion, another 1 million people were killed. Million by the American bombing of that country. Why they did that to Iraq? Because Iraq has the genes of empire. Iraq was very stable. Iraq was very strong. Iraq got the two important things, actually, oil and water, which many countries in the Middle East and the whole world lack. They were scared of Iraq. George, this actually so-called Arab Spring wouldn't succeed. This conspiracy wouldn't succeed if Iraq was strong, if Iraq was actually not actually what's happening now, if the Iraqi army was there. They destroyed Iraq under the huge deception called weapon of mass destruction. Where are they? Personally, I don't believe anything like what they are saying nowadays. And freedom of expression in this country disappeared. Gary Lineker actually exposed them, and I supported him. People here in this country, I took refuge in this country in order to express my views, my free views. Gary Lineker could not express his opinion. I cannot express my opinion. I am deprived from appearing in any of the English or American channels and the whole world. So you can see that it is lies. Lies when they actually invaded Iraq, lies now when they are talking about Ukraine, lies now when they are actually talking and deceiving their own people.
They didn't just invade it for its oil and water. There are other Arab countries they would never invade that have oil and water. They didn't invade it because it was a dictatorship. There are many Arab dictatorships, most of them very friendly to us. They invaded it because it was a sovereign country that didn't follow their orders. Whether you liked their government or not, it was a real government. It was a real state that could not be ordered to do this or that. That's the truth of it, isn't it?
Yes, because Iraq actually has a very solid infrastructure, because they removed or put an end to illiteracy in the country, and the UNESCO celebrated of that, because they were concentrating on rebuilding a country to be sovereign, as you mentioned, because its leader refused to be actually on the American conspiracy, supporting the American conspiracy to make Israel a superpower and to actually deprive the Palestinian people of their legitimate right of independence, of actually, justice and prosperous life. This is the problem. If Saddam Hussein actually said yes to America, if he said yes to Israel and Israeli crimes, I think he wouldn't be invaded. Look, most of the Arab countries are dictatorship. Why they don't invade them? Why they invaded Libya, for example? Why they destroyed Libya? Why they removed Gaddafi? Simply because Gaddafi wanted to issue and supported the African dinar, the African independent currency, because he wanted to create the African Union, like European Union. So that's the problem of those leaders, because they were independent, because they had a plan, they have a vision. They want to liberate their country from any outside influence. That's why they paid a heavy price for that. And not only them, but also the people, their people. Why the Libyan actually suffered because of this NATO invasion, because of this NATO bombing. Why, for example, the Iraqis suffered? Why 2 million Iraqi killed? If they want to remove Saddam Hussein, they could do it by all means, but they want to destroy Iraq. They want to destroy the Iraqi people. They want to humiliate them. And that's what happened. When children actually don't find milk, don't find food and die of starvation, when women, they don't find anything to feed their children. That's what happened to Iraq. That's what is happening now to Syria, George. Why Syria is starving? People, they don't have gas, they don't have mazot, they don't have diesel, they don't have electricity, they don't have food, they don't have bread, they don't have anything. And this is but because the Americans want to humiliate the Syrian people. There are about 30 million Syrian now. Literally, George, is starving. There is no medicine at all. There is no medical care. Why the Americans do that? You say it is Caesar law, which we have to impose in Syria. Oh, why are you imposing it? Well, I cannot remember. I cannot understand why they are doing it. Trump admitted that they spent $90 billion in order to destroy Syria. He said it by his tongue. And also, the Qatari foreign minister, Hamad bin Jassim, said we spent $136 billion in Syria to change the regime in Syria. So why they are doing that? It is American dictation. It is American instruction. But now the Americans are paying a very heavy price in Europe. Now they are paying a very heavy price in Ukraine. Now they use the Ukrainian people as a shield, as a, as you can say, as a tool in order to destroy Russia. Why they want to destroy Russia? Why they want to starve Russian people? Why they want to impose sanctions in China? Why we cannot live together in equal footing? Why we cannot live in peace in our world? Why they are dragging us to a nuclear war in order to destroy us? I don't know. They didn't have enough of bloodshed in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, and in other places, in Iraq. Yeah. Why they are thirsty for our blood? Yeah, they don't have enough? I am asking you, George.
Well, look, we've only a few minutes left, so let me ask you this. Now, Russia and especially China are big powers in the Arab Middle East, and not in the usual suspect countries, not in Algeria, not in Syria. Russia and China are now big powers in Saudi Arabia, in the United Arab Emirates. The Saudi king just invited the president of Iran to make a state visit to Riyadh. The tectonic plates are shifting massively, and not to the benefit of Britain or America. Am I right?
George, you are absolutely right. In the Middle East, we used to have the people against the United States. We have to use the governments against the United States and Europe. For the first time, there is a unity between the governors and the people. So imagine Saudi Arabia, which actually used to be ocean of influence of the West and the Middle East. It used to be the major ally of the West and the Middle East. Now, Saudi Arabia, you are absolutely correct. Saudi Arabia are going to China, going to Russia. First, they signed OPEC Plus with Russia, and then now they are establishing a strategic relation with Russia. We have seen with China, the Chinese leader coming to visit Saudi Arabia in last December, and he was received in red carpet in that country, and he had about 3 summit with the Saudi, summit with the Gulf leaders, summit with the Arab leaders. Now the Arabs are fed up of the lies of the West. They don't trust the West anymore. They don't trust them. They don't trust their democracy. They don't trust their weapons. Look at the American weapons were defeated in Yemen. The Patriot was actually humiliated in Yemen, in Saudi Arabia when the Yemeni attacked them. So now the people saying, why shall we go to the West? We had enough. 80 years of Western domination of the Middle East has to end. And now they are turning to China. They are turning to Russia. Russia never invaded their countries. China never occupied their countries. They're always supporting their people. Russians signed agreement with Iran. $400 billion will be invested by China in Iran. The same thing, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, Chinese dollars invested on Africa. No, they are helping people. They are not killing people. How many people in the Middle East were killed by China? How many people in the Middle East were killed by Russia? That's the big question. But there are millions killed by the West. Why the Palestinians are suffering? Why now they are turning to armed struggle? Simply because 30 years of negotiation under the American umbrella with the Israeli, the outcome was ridiculous. Nothing at all. No independent state, no good life, no work, no proper no proper water, no proper electricity, no services at all. So that's the problem. The problem is when we say that, they don't like it. They banned us. Say, no. Don't bring Bari Atwan to the BBC anymore. Don't bring Bari Atwan to ITV anymore. We don't want to see Bari Atwan on Channel 4. That's what, no Bari Atwan CNN. They don't want this to be seen. They want people to lie. They want people hypocrite. That's the problem. You and me and all people like us will never be hypocrite. We
Never.
will continue. Never, never. I promise you, George. We know each other for years, as you mentioned. We are still young and we're still talkative, and we will actually confront them by truth, by figures,
God willing.
by facts.
God willing. Here's to the next 40 years. Abdel Bari Atwan, thank you very much indeed.